Check, 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 check.
to greet all of our distinguished opening speakers, as well as all of our participants in today's forum. The overarching theme of this year's assembly is renewable energy for shared prosperity. And I think you hardly need a reminder from me, dear Excellencies, that if we want to deliver on that promise, no factor is more crucial than governance frameworks. They profoundly influence both the speed of the energy transition and its impact. If we're serious about accelerating renewables deployment that generates inclusive benefits for all, it is time to rethink governance frameworks, and that's what we're here to do this morning. The forum brings together leading government and regulatory actors to exchange experiences and approaches for boosting investment and innovation on the one hand, and societal gains from jobs to community participation and local value added on the other hand. We will begin with words of greeting, with the keynotes and a scene setter, and then I will open the floor for 2 rounds of discussion amongst the assembled legislators and regulators. And now it is my great pleasure to ask IRENA's Deputy Director General Gauri Singh to open the forum. Deputy Director General, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Dr. Ali Rashid Al Nuami, Vice President of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, and Dr. Sedra Rashid Al Mansouri, Member of the Federal National Council of the UAE, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Parliament and energy regulators, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And it's a pleasure for me to welcome all of you to this forum here today. And we're really looking forward to a very engaged discussion and participation as we move forward. Your presence here today underscores our shared global commitment to expanding renewable energy and advancing climate action, and it reflects the critical role that Parliament and regulatory authorities both play in translating the global ambition to national action. And in this forum, which is a very critical forum in our run-up to the Assembly, we hope to hear from all of you as you shape the laws, policies, and regulatory frameworks which are needed to deliver a sustainable and inclusive energy future. As the global community moves from commitments to implementation, and following the very ambitious UAE consensus in 2026, where the world came together, the countries came together to put the ambition of tripling of renewables and doubling energy efficiency by 2030, the global energy transition has been gaining momentum. In 2024, 582 gigawatts of renewable capacity was added worldwide, which is really an impressive growth of 15.1% year on year. But to achieve what we need till 2030, we need to amplify and amp it up to about 16%. I also want to highlight here that renewables now make up 91% of all the new power additions. Yet, COP30 reminded us that the progress remains uneven and the window for course correction is narrowing. Significant gaps persist in finance, implementation, and national targets. And to reach our tripling target of 11 terawatts by 2030, the world must add more than 1 terawatt every year from now to 2030. So it's not just about reaffirming the ambition, but also rethinking how the governance structures, how the enabling frameworks, finance, and all will come together to deliver this transition. So the shift to renewables is no longer about technology advance. It's no longer a technological challenge. It's equally about governance, financial and institutional challenge. It's also about taking people along, taking the very constituencies that you represent into this energy transition which the world is moving towards. IRENA analysis shows us that the countries that have done well to establish clear, predictable, transparent frameworks which reduce risk and unlock private investment have done well. These are the same countries that have been able to build long-term market confidence, and these come with stable regulation, fair competition, and effective market design. So, the role of public leadership is extremely critical. I hope the discussions today can give us insights on how can governments act as demand creators using procurement and sourcing public operations to signal commitments, which legislations and regulatory frameworks are needed to enable stronger private sector participation, what is the way forward to make sure that this transition is inclusive and just, and how do we get the cost of capital, which is really the bane of most of the developing countries, to come down and to effectively contribute to this energy transition. So while we know that every country will be unique and have, but there are many challenges that are shared, which will make clean energy more affordable and keep the systems reliable. But for this reason, we think that the discussions here are going to be extremely valuable, not only as we hear what is happening in your countries, but also the fact that you all represent the will of the people in the constituencies that you represent. And I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion on how local value creation and jobs and skills can also contribute to the nations that are going along this path. So I just like to conclude by thanking you all for being here and for the insights that you will share as we proceed in these discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director General, for your words and your messages that we will take with us into our discussions. And you called for public leadership. Certainly the next organization that we will hear from has committed itself to engaged leadership in supporting parliamentarians' exchange of good practice when it comes to sustainable energy governance. It is a pleasure to welcome the Vice President of the Global Organization of National Parliaments, the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid Al Nuaimi.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Mr. Gauri Singh, Deputy Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency, Honorable Member of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to address you here on behalf of the IPU. Let me begin first by thanking the International Renewable Energy Agency for bringing us all together this year with a new theme, a theme that is much needed related to bringing humanity together. The theme that they chose this year, I think it's very important for everyone who's going to speak today, is to start from it, think about it, and share the responsibility related to it. The theme is powering humanity. It's not powering a single region or a single country or a single group. It's powering humanity. That means powering all of us, inclusive, without excluding anyone. And in that, empowering humanity, they put renewable energy for shared prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in an era where we see a rise of conflict globally. And the reason for that rise is because of the natural resources, and especially the focus of these conflicts that we see now there is a competition related to what? To energy and power. And this is where, IRENA came, have a role to play as an organization, part of our future, where a future that we belong to, and we are responsible, all of us, to create that future where prosperity will be inclusive and for everyone. What we are seeing now, actually, because of the issue of power, we see these conflicts in all regions. We see the fight related to the energy resources. I think it's very important here for all members of parliament to understand the importance of IRENA, the role that they can play to bring us together. IRENA is part of the solution. And this, for all members of parliaments everywhere, they have to engage with them, build bridges of partnership with IRENA, facilitate their initiatives, their program, engage with them, because they are actually empowering humanity in an issue that others are undermining the interest of all humanity. As all of you know, the AI is something that integrated in our life, in our system, in everything now. And for AI, you need power. And what you see now related to investment in AI, it's mainly related to power. And this is where our role as parliamentarian to understand it and to try to engage in being part of the solution. Unfortunately, many of our politicians, when it comes to this conflict, they are excellent in issuing statements. They are excellent in naming and shaming. What we want to do is to change. A change that will change our engagement, our approach, our responsibility toward our local community, our people, and humanity, where always we ask this question: are what we're doing is part of the solution or part of the problem? What is needed now to engage the IPU? One of the main principles of the IPU is dialogue. What's needed now that we have to engage in dialogue with all those who agree with us or who disagree with us. We are talking about humanity. We are talking about the future of all of us. We have to play a role in that, in shaping that future. We have to play a role in bringing solution to all these conflicts. We have to play a role in building bridges of trust and partnership. And this is where the IPU, as an international institution with 183 countries, can engage and can be used. Because at the end, we as MPs, we represent the people. We speak on behalf of humanity. And this is where we should have the courage to engage in a dialogue. Don't leave it to the government. Try to start building bridges between all those who play a role in shaping the future of energy. Energy is a must for prosperity. No country, no community will enjoy prosperity unless they have energy. And an affordable energy, an energy that will last, an energy that will not harm the environment and harm the local community. And here where is the IRENA come and engage. I urge you to think differently in the way that we approach this issue and try to think in a way of a responsible MPs representing the people and representing humanity to be part of the solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for those clear and very inspiring words to all of us. Our host country, UAE, is actively engaged in the Interparliamentary Union, and we hear next from a leading member of UAE's Federal National Council, who also sits on the IPU's Health Committee. It's a pleasure to hand over to keynote speaker, Her Excellency Cedra Rashid Al Mansour. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the introductions. Your Excellencies, Deputy Director General, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to address you today on behalf of His Excellency Sagr Gbash, Speaker of the Federal National Council of the United Arab Emirates. I'm pleased to convey his warm greetings and his sincere appreciation to the International Renewable Energy Agency for convening this Legislators and Regulators Forum as a driver for renewable energy and strengthening international cooperation. When we discuss energy transition, we must begin with facts. As mentioned by Dr. Ali, credible projections indicate that more than 1 billion people could be displaced in the coming decade due to heat stress, water scarcity, and the loss of livable environment. The health consequences are equally clear. The World Health Organization has identified climate change as a fundamental health threat facing humanity, linking it to premature births, heat-related deaths, emerging infectious diseases, and worsening water scarcity. Pressures that will also translate into a significant economic and financial burden on many countries. At the same time, the economic case for action has never been stronger. The International Energy Agency confirms that solar energy is now the cheapest source of electricity in history. The challenge we face today is no longer technology, it's space and policy. As a chair of the Health Environment Committee of the Federal National Council in UAE, we are committed to strengthening climate resilience and protecting public health. The committee reviewed this subject, and through its legislative and oversight mandate, the Council provided an additional layer of governance by reviewing relevant policies and requesting alignment with the UAE's commitment under COP28, particularly in advancing renewables and clean energy. This work reinforced alignment with international sustainability frameworks and green building standards. This parliamentary focus aligns with the broader national commitment. Sustainability is a defining pillar of the UAE's development strategy. As a major oil producing country, the UAE's early decisions to invest in clean energy were at the time widely underestimated and not fully appreciated. Yet, the outcome now is unmistakable. The results were clearly visible in the UAE's effort in hosting COP28 in 2023, the largest climate conference in history, which brought together more than 80,000 participants and mobilized over $85 billion for climate action, making a decisive shift from pledge to implementation. At the national level, the UAE has since emerged as a regional leader in clean energy deployment. It was the first country in the Middle East and North Africa to announce a net zero by 2050 strategy. This progress reflects early and sustained action from establishment of Masdar in 2006 and delivering a world-leading projects such as Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park and Noor Abu Dhabi. I was particularly proud to know that UAE is already generating nearly 29% of its electricity from clean energy. That's almost one-third. bringing the country very close to its 30% target, well ahead the 2030 timeline. This achievement is especially significant given the UAE's role as a major oil-producing nation, demonstrating that energy producers can lead the transition and diversify their power mix. Since the Paris Agreement momentum has grown, today's installed clean energy capacities have already exceeded earlier forecasts. Progress is real, but the pace is still not fast enough. At the same time, and again, as mentioned by Dr. Ali, the AI revolution and the rapid expansion of data centers are driving a remarkable growth in global energy. Scientists say that every 1 hour we receive energy from the sun that can satisfy global energy needs for the entire year. The limitation we face is not technology. We already have the evidence, the tools, and the capabilities to support humanity's future. What will determine success now is policy leadership. It's on us now. It's our duty. As legislators and regulators, we can accelerate implementation by creating enabling frameworks that incentivize renewable energy use, send a strong market signal, unlock private investment, and generate jobs and skills, ensuring that energy transition is effective and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Dr. Al-Mansouri, for those clear messages, including underlining the fact that when we rethink governance frameworks, we should not forget to factor in the health benefits that clean energy can deliver. And we will pick up on those messages in our moderated discussion a little bit later on. But first we go to a scene setter, and it comes from the Open Society Foundations, which recently noted that the benefits of the energy transition are not shared equally amongst countries and amongst segments of society. The foundations have committed significant resources to developing new models that can deliver the kind of shared prosperity that we're here to talk about at this year's assembly. It is a great pleasure to introduce Francesca Ricciardone. She is Program Manager for Economic and Climate Prosperity at the Open Society Foundations. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Distinguished colleagues, it is a privilege and a pleasure to join you today at the IRENA Legislators and Regulators Forum and to be invited to participate in setting the scene for today's important discussion. For Open Society Foundations, for our Economic and Climate Prosperity Program, our starting point is, as mentioned, the observation that currently only a few countries in the world are able to seize the benefits of the climate transition that we're in. They're able to do so by entering new supply chains and exporting new green technologies to the rest of the world. And broadly speaking, the Global South is not taking the same advantage of these new opportunities. Countries are mainly exporting raw materials for these new green technologies. And of course, as we all know, there are structural reasons for this, including, as mentioned, access to finance, as well as certain trade regulations. Our approach is to look at this climate transition as an opportunity for Global South countries to act decisively about how they can restructure economies, generate jobs, industrialize, and reduce inequalities. For this transition for the momentum of this transition to help redress inequalities between countries as well as within countries. And we are working across various geographies in this effort. As a philanthropic donor, we focus primarily on grant making and on convening, and with a focus on developing technical analysis, economic and climate modeling that can support context-specific industrial policy design. And in our view, these approaches are strongest when they are integrating perspectives and constructive input from local and regional universities, from civil society, such as worker and industry association, and always in dialogue with colleagues in government, including legislators and regulators like yourselves. And we are seeing significant momentum and strategic thinking around green industrialization. This panel is one example of that. And as this road unfolds, we will continue to learn lessons. What we can see already is that there is a promising possibility when well-designed, context-specific policies can effectively align industrial and climate goals. So allow me, please, in this brief scene setting, to share a few examples just to help set the stage for our collective rethinking. And I look forward to the honor of hearing more from you all in this discussion. In our first session, as we think about public leadership and market signals, I find it especially illustrative to think about the opportunities for public procurement policies, as well as national industrial policy frameworks and country platform approaches that can be part of shaping the domestic demand for renewable energy. Taking for our first example, the nickel industry in Indonesia, where licensing rules for smelters now require domestic processing, ensuring that firms add value locally rather than exporting raw ore. And standards under the new nickel decarbonization roadmap guide companies towards low carbon technologies. They shape procurement and investment choices. And these regulatory instruments send unmistakable signals to markets that the future lies in clean, domestic, value-added production. Moving to another geography, in Brazil, policymakers are leading actors in a coalition to accelerate the sustainable aviation fuel sector. The coalition includes producer industry and labor unions, has been able to work with partners in government and secure legislation and certification steps critical to accelerating investment. Similarly, at the national level, we have the example of Plan Mexico policy framework, a comprehensive national economic strategy for industrial transformation involving ministries of economy, finance, and environment collectively or together coordinating policy design around shared climate and industrial goals. This integration has already influenced Mexico's updated climate commitments, including an absolute emissions cap for 2035. And these three cases, I'm sure we'll hear more from you all, are indicators that clear frameworks and strong signals from legislators and regulators are underway. They can be part of ambitious visions built with practical tools, and they can reshape how we understand economic opportunity. As we think about inclusive growth and green industrialization in our second session this morning, this is the area where open society is seeking to build out the evidence base that investing in green industrialization can support shared and productive economic growth. Now, of course, growth alone does not deliver shared prosperity that can fulfill ambitious national development goals. A just and sustainable industrial future will require policy frameworks grounded in the diverse realities of those that are most affected by economic and ecological challenges. If we return to the nickel example in Indonesia, the downstreaming strategy has already produced measurable outcomes. The downstream nickel exports from Indonesia have reached $6.6 billion in 2021, and by 2023, the country had become the world's second largest cobalt producer, despite producing almost none just 3 years earlier. In the nickel-producing territories, there has been significant growth increases in North Maluku from 6.7% to over 20% in just 5 years. And importantly to mention, sustained employment rose by nearly 3% in nickel-producing districts, about 3,400 new jobs per district. This issue of jobs is an important one, and one important way to think about the equitable impacts of green industrial policy. In Mexico, the integration of labor policy with industrial strategy has started to reshape wage setting and employment expectations. Universities and think tanks are collaborating with government partners on economic modeling around circular economy and zero-emission vehicle supply chains, ensuring that industrial policy analysis is grounded in locally produced evidence. And of course, in pursuing these types of industrial policy agendas, access to finance is critical. In today's development finance environment, it's important to consider where national development banks might play a greater role. In Indonesia, components of the downstream nickel processing were financed by a local bank, PT SMI, and the sovereign wealth fund, Danantara, mobilizing both domestic and foreign investment. And in Mexico, development banks have also opened formal collaboration channels with ministries working on industrial decarbonization. In addition to this mobilization of domestic finance, institutional cooperation is equally important. As mentioned in Mexico, we're seeing a lot of cooperation with the universities, think tanks, and civil society, as well as with fiscal justice coalitions that are thinking about inequality, that are thinking about taxation, that are thinking about green transition financing in a sustainable way. These examples, as I mentioned, are part of a growing evidence base that it is possible for thoughtful and well-calibrated industrial policy to align productive development with climate goals, and that it works best when policymakers integrate the aspirations and ideas from their communities and institutions. Legislators and regulators are closest to the affected community members and relevant policymakers both, and are best placed to help fine-tune the nationally appropriate procurement policies, regulatory instruments, and industrial strategies. And working with these coalitions of supporters, these policies can help to unlock investment, reduce risks, and guarantee that the benefits of the transition are shared widely. As we begin today's discussions, our collective rethink, the broad framing I would like to leave you with is that when governments lead decisively and when institutions cooperate and when civil society is engaged, the renewable energy transition can truly become a driver of economic transformation and shared prosperity. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Francesca Ricciardone. You've given us some very valuable, concrete examples to pick up on in our moderated discussion. And I think you've also reminded us, we heard earlier from Vice President Al-Rumaimi that energy is power, but in fact, the equation works the other way around as well. If we use the levers of political power in an innovative way, we can shape an energy transition that will deliver significantly greater societal benefits for all. So many thanks for that. As Francesca indicated, we have decided to structure our moderated discussion in two parts to reflect the fact that our topics are multifaceted and interlinked. So we will do a first round of discussion that does address the role of public sector leadership in providing clear market signals that reduce investment risk and stimulate demand, including, for example, the procurement policies that were just mentioned, as well as other measures. And our second round of discussion will focus on inclusive growth and green industrialization, exploring how legislators and regulators can ensure that renewable expansion does deliver those broad socioeconomic benefits all of our speakers have mentioned, including strengthening local value chains, jobs, and skills. And I will now say that our speakers, some of them must leave us now, so let's give them one more round of applause as they leave. Thank you very much for your messages. We are very pleased to have with us today a wide range of regions and perspectives, and that makes timekeeping especially important. So let me ask everyone speaking today to please keep your remarks concise. That means 3 minutes maximum. And do share hands-on examples from your own experience. That will help us very much to talk about the kind of practical, ambitious and solutions-oriented policies that the Deputy Director General urged us to consider. And after the 2 rounds of pre-registered comments, if we have time, I will open the floor for other contributions. Also, if you hear something noteworthy that you would like to share with the world, please post on social media using the hashtag Irina16 and tagging Irina. Is that Irina 16A actually? 16A, tagging Irina. So now let us launch our first round on public leadership and market signals. And we go first to Ghana, to Her Excellency, the Honorable Gisela Teta Agbotui. She is Deputy Minister Designate for Works, Housing, and Water Resources. And Madam, Ghana is often seen as a model for its clear, stable rules and credible institutions. You replaced older feed-in tariffs, for example, with competitive procurement and net metering provisions. What would you say has done the most to boost investor confidence? Would it be tariffs, licensing, procurement reform? Tell us more.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. The interesting thing is that renewables are free, and everybody has a portion, and everybody has a bit of it in their respective countries. Madam Moderator, in Ghana, we decided to take deliberate steps. The first one was to amend the Renewable Energy Act 2011, Act 832, and amend it to Act 2020, which is Act 1045. Now, the reason this is because basically investor confidence had to be strengthened and restored. And we also realized that it was a much more better approach to have much more competitiveness in the procurement process. And so, with regards to tariffs and price discovery, we transitioned from administratively determined feed-in tariffs, obviously, to procurement, competitive procurement, and market-responsive pricing mechanisms, and which actually reflect actual market conditions, technology costs, and risk profiles. Secondly, with respect to licensing and regulation, it was important for us to simplify the reforms and clarify the permitting framework across the entire project lifecycle, from siting of these plants to licensing to grid connection and operation. And then with clear timelines and defined institutional roles. And then we also strengthened the collaboration between the regulatory system, Energy Commission is represented here, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, and grid operators, such that they have reduced regulatory uncertainty and transaction costs. Now, the core of it is the bill that was amended so that there's enough clarity on the legal regime and the legal systems that we are putting in place for all of this. And then in terms of procurement reform, it was important to, since we have embedded renewable energy within a broader integrated power sector planning framework, we have taken the decision that by 2030, 10% of our national energy mix will be from renewables. And that may seem a bit short with compared to other people's targets, but we want to be realistic because we actually have because of the increased energy needs, we actually are having a transition strategy whereby we have a natural gas plant and we're going to actually put up another one. As we are bidding time to be able to work our way to get the 10% natural energy mix. And then our policy framework places strong emphasis on long-term predictability. And the revised bill therefore sets clearer national renewable energy targets, supports net metering and distributed generation under transparent rules, and promotes local content and skills development without undermining competitiveness. This is very important because there should be a win-win for both. There should be a win-win for both the investors and the consumers. And so, in summary, I'll just say that we are on course. The new government took office at the beginning of 2025, and they actually renamed the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, thereby making it a clear statement from the leadership of our country, led by President John Dramani Mahama, that we are actually in transition. And so once that statement is made from that level, everything else cascades to the various agencies under the ministry that have to do their work appropriately. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'm very glad you underlined the importance of collaboration because as we heard earlier from Francesca, to ensure policy coherence, it is crucial that various governmental bodies and ministries, institutions, and regulators, as well as legislators, do coordinate amongst each other, which is why we will now go to Mr. Frederick Ken Appiah. He is Deputy Director of Ghana's Renewable Energy Regulations Energy Commission. And as we heard from the Deputy Minister, Ghana is now pushing to advance renewable energy, and your commission does play a central role in regulating energy resources, encouraging technical integrity, licensing, and performance standards that were in fact just mentioned, and policy guidance. So tell us a little bit more about how the two sides work together with innovative financing programs to ensure that green investments remain affordable and attractive, and what lessons can perhaps be drawn for other countries?
All right, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to be among the legislators here. So I think to achieve this global energy transition and global climate goals, we need to underscore the importance of regulatory frameworks and even the role of regulatory institutions. Energy Commission sits as a central point because we advise the Minister for Energy on policy issues. We also regulate the sector by licensing and setting up of standards of performance. We have a third mandate to promote renewable energy. So what we do is to look at the market and see the challenges and then advise accordingly how policy can come in. And if we have to quickly develop regulatory framework to enforce those policy instruments, then we quickly do that. And we play that kind of role very, very well. We do a lot of stakeholder engagement. Before any regulatory instrument is passed, we have to go through a series of stakeholder engagement, making sure that the investor community comes in, they contribute to the document, because Parliament would demand that these things are done. So we do that a lot. And also, we support the market, especially the financial institutions. We realize that, of course, it's said that technology is not an issue, it's more of an institutional issue. So we realized that the finance institution were putting much risk on renewable energy. So a few years down the line, financing of renewable energy was a challenge. So technical assistance was very, very key. So all the kind of facilities we got from donor partners, we enshrine into that facility of support, the technical assistance. So we do capacity building, support the financial institutions to make sure that they understand the regulations very, very well, to de-risk any kind of, to bring de-risking instruments, going through the competitive procurement framework, for example, utility scale, so they understand it very well. For distributed generation, net metering scheme has been established, and we explained to them very, very well. So it has brought into some kind of confidence from the investor community, and also ensuring that the consumer is also protected, because we need to make sure that we set the minimum efficiency or energy performance standards. We have adopted almost like 200 technical standards covering solar, wind, hydro, and everything. We have made sure that we have labeling scheme and so on. So once we are supporting the financial institutions, they get a confidence that at least the products they are going to invest in, or their clients are going to invest in, meet the minimum technical standards. And before they approve any kind of project, we support them in verifying the technologies and so on. There's a project like SunRef. There is the Green Climate Fund Facility by EcoBank that is the Accelerating Solar Action Program. We have financing instruments like the Scaling Up Renewable Energy Program, where net metering and also mini-grid facilities are being deployed. And so, in a nutshell, I would say that advising other regulatory institutions in other countries, one is setting up clear policy targets and also regulatory framework. It should be very, very clear, and also collaborating with other key institutions to make sure that we let them understand very well what everything means. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Starting off our debate with a great example of how legislative and regulatory collaboration can, in fact, shape a policy framework that provides clear market signals for bankable projects that also deliver the goals that you shape. So many thanks for that. We go now to the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament and get a regional perspective from Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Memunatu Ibrahima. She will be speaking in French, so unfortunately we do not have translation today. I believe we do not. Is that correct, Elena? Because people are putting on headphones, but don't bother, because we do not have translation. What we will do is, I hope that many of you will understand the contribution. We will provide an English summary of it later to everyone who has taken part in the session, and I will see whether I can provide you with a very brief summary after Madame Ibrahima has spoken. So our question to ECOWAS is how it is advancing standardization of rules, regional power market integration, common frameworks, and risk mitigation tools to support cross-border renewable investment. So look forward to hearing your remarks, Madame Ibrahima. Vous avez la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la modératrice. Excellents chers collègues, distingués invités, je remercie le pays hôte et l'IRENA pour l'aimable invitation et l'opportunité de porter la voix des parlementaires ouest-africains dans ce dialogue essentiel. L'Afrique de l'Ouest fait face à un paradoxe saisissant, un potentiel énergétique exceptionnel, ensoleillement abondant, côte de plus de 5000 km, favorable à l'éolien, fort potentiel hydroélectrique, et pourtant, près de 43% de notre population n'a toujours pas un accès fiable à l'électricité. À la CEDEAO, nous sommes convaincus qu'aucun État ne peut relever seul le défi. La fragmentation des marchés a longtemps freiné les investissements. Notre réponse a été de construire un marché régional intégré, crédible et attractif. 3 actions concrètes illustrent cette ambition. D'abord, le pôle énergétique ouest-africain a réalisé la synchronisation complète des réseaux de 15 pays de la région. Cette interconnexion crée un marché régional liquide, permet le partage des réserves, stabilise les réseaux et élargit considérablement le marché accessible aux investisseurs. Deuxièmement, nos institutions spécialisées ont élaboré des règles communes, des procédures transparentes et des normes techniques harmonisées pour réduire les coûts de transaction et les incertitudes juridiques. Troisièmement, notre politique régionale des énergies renouvelables fixe un cap ambitieux, à savoir 48% d'énergie renouvelable dans le mix régional d'ici 2030 et un accès universel à une énergie propre et abordable pour les 810 millions d'habitants d'ici 2050. Le Parlement de la CEDEAO joue un rôle central dans cette transition énergétique, en suivant la mise en œuvre des politiques, en évaluant les performances des institutions et en intégrant les préoccupations des communautés. Cette surveillance renforce la crédibilité et l'attractivité de notre cadre régional, permettant déjà l'émergence des projets transfrontaliers concrets soutenus par des partenaires comme la Banque mondiale et l'IRENA. Cependant, des défis persistent, notamment la modernisation des infrastructures, le transfert de technologies, les compétences locales et surtout la vulnérabilité climatique. Pour les surmonter, nous proposons de simplifier et consolider les cadres juridiques régionaux pour créer des guichets uniques d'investissement, soutenir les fonds régionaux de garantie et de co-investissement, institutionnaliser des mécanismes de dialogue public-privé et de consultation communautaire et développer un programme régional de formation aux compétences vertes. Je voudrais conclure que des signaux de marché naissent d'une volonté politique collective, traduite en institutions solides et en une intégration régionale approfondie. C'est le chemin que nous avons choisi pour bâtir ensemble un avenir énergétique résilient, prospère et partagé. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. And just the briefest of summaries there, Madame Ibrahima has described 3 areas of concrete action where ECOWAS is trying to provide public leadership, including interconnectors as a crucial means of both stabilizing the market and making it more attractive for investment. Also, common rules across the region, again, for the same purpose of market signals that do incentivize investment and decrease transaction costs. And then a third area of concentration regarding access for communities. And Madam Ibrahima also talked about the important role that parliaments play in monitoring such initiatives. And she spoke as well of the fact that these actions are delivering projects that are both attractive to investors and also deliver benefits for communities, including both local value added and also skills development. And finally, she talked about the role of ECOWAS in supporting public-private dialogue. And since that summary was a bit improvised, you will also receive a proper one later, as I mentioned, from Irina Secretariat. So many thanks to you. We now stay in Africa and go to Namibia, to His Excellency, the Honorable Katamilo. He's Deputy Speaker of Namibia's Parliament. And Namibia is viewed as a fast-moving market with a very clear strategy, strong political leadership, and emerging green hydrogen initiatives. Which specific reforms would you say have done most to unlock momentum, procurement, clarity, private sector entry frameworks, land and permitting reforms, risk-sharing arrangements, or something else altogether?
First and foremost, good morning. Due to time, well, it's maybe a success story, but it did not come as a one single policy intervention. And one of the key, it was a deliberate reforms that were aligned. And as such, those reforms provided clarity, investor confidence, and credibility within what we wanted to achieve as a country. Now, the very first strategic intent is that there was a clear strategic intent echoed by political acumen that were decisive into already way at the beginning. The green hydrogen aspect were indicated as an economic pillar that will drive economic activity for the country. And as such, it was incorporated in Vision 2030, the fifth National Development Plan, and Namibia's climate commitment towards green hydrogen. So we already, those phenomena framed as the framework of engagement and as a basis of inculcating a universal arrangement towards green hydrogen. Two, this alignment resulted in policy uncertainty and also give long-term confidence for within the market in terms of green hydrogen. Secondly, there was institutional coordination and procurement clarity, unlocked delivery. What do I mean with this? There was a single entry point for all investors in terms of the green hydrogen aspect. And as such, this streamlined decisions and also provided a blueprint for projects movement from concept towards approval of projects, and that also helped this reduce fragmentation within the system and also accelerated timelines. Thirdly, there was access to land or state land was clearly defined as to how access to state land and environmental and social assessment validations that were required were already debriefed and debunked way in the beginning. And that also helped streamline the process in terms of creating and erasing the bottlenecks. Fourthly, there was risk-sharing arrangement that was clearly embedded within the system in which government dealt with the planning and institutional risk, and the private developers dealt with the operational and construction risk associated. So there was clearly defined risk assessment in terms of their assessment and the roles for both government and investors that helped accelerate the process today. In respect of time, I think those were the four interventions that has helped us produce and been seen as what we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you're quite right about time. We are slowly beginning to lag a bit, so I'm going to ask everybody to please be as mindful of time as you are. And thank you very much for that clear explication of how you are providing very clear guidance on market signals and with real results. I go now to Mr. Honorable Arthur C. Yap. He is from the House of Representatives of the Philippines. And with the Philippines targeting 35% renewables by 2030 and 50% by 2040, how is Parliament turning those ambitions into reality? We've heard a lot about regulatory predictability, credible laws, budget support. What would you consider to be the most important levers that you're using?
Madam Moderator, warmest greetings from the Philippines and from to our esteemed delegates and colleagues here in IRENA. I'm grateful for this opportunity to express, together with my colleagues from the Philippines, our continuing commitment to accelerate the shift to a more sustainable world that relies on renewable energy. It is our aim in the Philippines to have 35 and 50% renewable energy in its energy mix by 2030 and 2040, respectively. This has been a primary consideration in the crafting of our new laws and energy policies. We have opened up full foreign ownership for all our renewable energy investments. Initiatives in stability of investments, taxation, and regime are underway. And legislating for market demand is something that we're working on right now. And we're going to do this coming from the national government and the LGUs, from national government and LGU sources. In that way, we can assure capital formation for investments in renewable energy. Of course, permitting and harmonizing national government and LGU requirements are also prime considerations. We are doing this, but in the same breath, we are all challenged in ensuring that the move to greater renewables is done in a way that protects the poor and the vulnerable in our societies. Madam Moderator, in the Philippines, we are fully deregulated. It is an open access system. And since it's an open access system, the challenge is, of course, on how to protect, because sometimes it seems so easy to open up the economy and pass on all the inefficiencies and the costs and the burdens to the consuming public. So this is what is critical. And I think we welcome this conference for what the IRENA can do, especially in the issue of accessing the technology and also the concessional funding for economies and societies like us that are trying to do our best to open up our systems to renewables, but doing it in an open access system. Particularly, Ms. Francesca Ricciardoni said that there seems to be something disjoint here when it comes to South-South's access to finance and trade regulations. Then I think that is something that we should address in this conference on how to help legislators here do the right thing and how to incentivize governments and legislators to do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And in fact, as I'm sure you know, IRENA does have multiple platforms for doing exactly that, and we will be discussing their initiatives and what they're delivering throughout the Assembly. So thank you very much for underlining how important that is. We go now to the Vice President of the Senate of Spain, His Excellency, Mr. Javier Maroto. And Spain has undergone one of Europe's fastest renewable energy transformations in recent years, accelerating deployment through decisive reforms, through stronger market mechanisms, and through clearer investment frameworks, and also trying to ensure that system integration does keep pace with growth. So looking ahead, what would you see as the most important next steps to maintain that dynamic and strengthen investor confidence while also sustaining your leadership trajectory?
Thank you, Melinda. Excellencies, dear colleagues. This week, President Donald Trump has, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about invading Greenland, has signed a memorandum directing United States agencies to withdraw from the list of international agency and climate bodies, including this one, IRENA. So let's be clear, withdrawing is not America first, it's influence last. It weakens coordination on grids, resilience and investment standards. So in the middle of a global transition like this, withdrawing is a voluntary, terrible mistake. Now let's go to Spain. Our renewable acceleration has been fast and real. It happened because Spain gave investors very clear rules. They need competitive market signals and a credible pipeline of projects. But the next phase is harder. As renewable grow, the priority is building a system that is reliable, affordable, and investable. So what should Spain prioritize? First, the grid. We must speed up permitting for network upgrades, publish transparent capacity maps so investment goes where it can actually connect. Second, flexibility and market signals that finance can trust. High renewable source need a storage, demand response, and fast balancing. Make revenue streams clear across energy services, and keep a stable, predictable auction calendar that rewards system value. And above all, avoid regulatory surprises. Retroactive change kills investments. And third, grow demand through electrification. So heat pumps, smart electric vehicle charging, and workable frameworks for industrial electrification. If demand does not grow, the system becomes oversupplied. So, dear colleagues, Spain will keep choosing cooperation over isolation. We have proven we can deliver, and now we still scale with the grid, flexibility, and electrification this transition demands. The world does not wait for those who leave the room. Spain will remain, build, and lead with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for those words and also for the reminder on the importance of grids and storage. I'm just going to use this opportunity to do a little promotion because later on in the day, we will have a session focused exclusively on that very, very important topic. And I hope as many as possible of you will attend that session late this afternoon. So many thanks for that. I go now to Senegal and the Honorable Aji Diarra Mergane, who is Member of Parliament. And Senegal is also advancing renewable energy deployment with a very strong focus on development priorities, energy access, and systemic stability, something that has been mentioned by a number of our speakers. Parliament plays a key role in ensuring continuity and alignment between legislation, planning, and investment decisions. So tell us more, if you would, about how the National Assembly is working to provide the kind of predictability and confidence that developers, financiers, and citizens need in order to scale up renewables.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. The mandate of a member of Senegal Parliament is to vote on laws, vote and approve the budget, oversee government action, and evaluate public policies. I want to emphasize the essential role of Parliament in ensuring the success of our energy transition strategy. Our commitment is clear: to create a stable, predictable, and credible environment to support investment in renewable energy. We act on several levels. First, by adopting a coherent legal framework that sets clear rules, reassures investors, and guarantees transparency. Then, through our oversight role, We closely monitor the implementation of energy policies to ensure they meet the needs of our citizens while remaining aligned with the country's economic and social priorities. We also play a key role in dialogue, listening to stakeholders, integrating feedback from the field, and ensuring that political decisions are well understood and widely supported. Finally, through the national budget, we help steer public investment towards a balanced energy development, supporting infrastructure, universal energy access, and system stability. In short, Senegal's National Assembly is a trust actor in ensuring policy coherence, transparency, and continuity. And it is this stability that creates the right conditions for investment and innovation. The objective of Senegal systemic transformation strategy in its 5-year phase is in its axis to relating to quality capital and social equality considerably reflect the construction of an inclusive and efficient social protection system and the strengthening of access to basic social services. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madame Megan, also for the strong emphasis on societal gains. We go now to Pakistan, and Shiasta Pervaiz Malik, please, you have the floor. Pakistan is navigating a complex energy landscape facing rising demand for affordable energy on the one hand and climate vulnerability on the other. And renewables are increasingly seen as part of the long-term solution. So how is Parliament shaping that, and how are you working to ensure that renewable energy contributes to both security and socioeconomic priorities? Welcome.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan adopted the development goals early in 2016 as its national development agenda, as Parliament plays a central role in ensuring that climate action, energy security, and inclusive growth advance together under this framework. But Pakistan is navigating a highly constrained energy landscape, balancing affordability, rising demand, energy security, and climate vulnerability under tight fiscal conditions. In this context, renewable energy is no longer treated as a distant aspiration. It is increasingly recognized as a near-term solution for lowering costs, increasing competitiveness, reducing import dependence, and strengthening national resilience, directly advancing SDGs on energy access, sustainable economic growth, development, and climate action. Parliament's role in shaping this shift. Energy succeeds not with the only ambition is announced, but when it is embedded in governance through laws, budgets, oversight, and durable policy signal that markets and gains citizens' trust. This is where the Parliament plays its important role. And now demonstrating demand-led transition through, this is an example what Pakistan is going through rooftop solar and agri-solar. Pakistan's rapid uptake of distribution solar illustrates how powerful governance signals can be when incentives align. In 1 year, Pakistan has imported solar panels equivalent to approximately 7 gigawatts capacity, making it one of the fastest growing rooftop solar markets globally. This growth was largely enabled by net metering policy, allowing households and businesses to sell excess power back to the grid. Consumers responded quickly when given certainty and flexibility, lowering costs, reducing exposure to fuel prices, and unpredictability, and improving reliability. And a very good example of this is that one of our provinces, Punjab, Chief Minister's solarization program for agriculture, tube wells supporting the conversion of 8,000 tube wells from diesel and grid electricity to solar, demonstrates how renewables can simultaneously support energy security, farmer incomes, and fiscal sustainability through targeted subsidies and clear eligibility criteria. Anchoring demand and momentum through the Climate Prosperity Plan, the soon-to-be-launched Climate Prosperity Plans builds on this demand-led momentum by providing a national investment and governance framework that gives direction, scale, and credibility to Pakistan's energy transition while aligning climate action with broader SDGs priorities. Through the CPP, Pakistan has deliberately framed the transition as a competitive economic development and national investment strategy. Not a climate compliance exercise, it serves as a long-term blueprint that aligns clean energy and productivity, fiscal stability, and job creation, which is very important. Critically, the CPP defines clear investment pathways that lower the long-term economic costs of climate shocks through resilience while increasing efficiency and competitiveness through system-wide energy transformation. This coherence matters to markets. Investors respond more positively when renewables are embedded in development and competitiveness agendas rates than treated as stand-alone climate commitments. Internationally, how Pakistan's positions its transition also shapes renewables demands. When clean energy is clearly linked to economic stability, industrial upgrading, and export competitiveness, the narrative shifts from vulnerability to investability. Platforms such as CVF, V20, and shared CPP approaches further strengthens credibility by signaling coordination action across emerging economies. Ultimately, renewable markets grow fast when domestic policy, parliamentary oversight, diplomacy, and international cooperation reinforce one another, sending a consistent message that the transition is credible, durable, and politically anchored. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that clear statement, also reminding us that strong development policy orientation can also deliver market signals that incentivize private investment. And I also will use your remarks as another brief promotion because that link between agri-food and renewables is a crucial part of delivering shared prosperity, especially for many emerging economies and developing countries. So we will do an entire session on that topic, and it's a first. It is a joint session between IRENA and FAO on Monday morning, and I do encourage as many as possible of you to attend. And with that, we now go to Nigeria, to the chair of the House of Representatives Committee on Climate Change and Security, the Honorable Kama Nikemkama. And Nigeria's energy demand, of course, is amongst Africa's absolute largest and fastest growing, and you possess significant renewable potential. Reforms are underway to improve market structure, to strengthen governance, to create clearer pathways for investment. So let us talk about what the most important actions are that you are now trying to undertake to convert your potential into bankable projects, investor confidence, and real progress on the ground.
Thank you very much for having me, the moderators, colleagues. So Nigeria is making it very clear that everything we are doing right now concerning our renewable energy, our energy problem, will have to be financially viable for everybody. So what we are doing as a country, first of all, Nigeria is deliberately focused on, crowding in private sector. We are trying to use our capital to reduce the risk. Instead of us going out there to allow people to bring in their money and have problems, Nigeria is trying as much as possible to use its own, first of all, its funds to reduce the risk, to de-risk. By trying to de-risk, Nigeria is deliberately focused on crowding in private sector capital rather than evidence on public funds. Public resources are being used to strategically, for de-risking through guarantees, blended finance, and early stage project preparation, so that every naira of public spending can unlock significant, larger amount of money coming in. That's what we are trying to do. Nigeria is actively building a robust MRV system to support carbon markets and climate finance. Through Nigerian Climate Change Response Program funded by the European Union delegation, the energy sections have already been covered to an extent. Sadly, the program suddenly stopped, and that's a very big problem for us right now. We are praying that, it's been revived again so that the whole sector will be covered by the MRV. Nigeria is also scaling decentralized renewables and clean energy solutions as commercially viable markets. We are using a mini-grid, solar home systems, clean cooking, and embedded generation are already, delivering measurable returns, reducing energy poverty, and lowering the cost of foreign diesels. These solutions create jobs, open the tax base, and retain capital within the local economy. Nigeria is deliberately focused on, like I said before, Nigeria is really focused on its NDC 3.0, so that we're trying to reform the power sector. And when we do that, we'll have a clear risk allocation frameworks. This reduces sovereign risk, improves project cash flows, and give investors confidence that projects can reach financial closure while protecting consumers. We're also trying to prioritize bankability through policy and regulatory clarity, which is what is ongoing now in the power sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. We come now to the final intervention in this first round of discussion, and we've already heard a little bit about what we'll be talking about in the next round as well, including the kind of shared benefits through mini-grids, cooking, and so on that you have just mentioned, sir. But we now have one more intervention on policy leadership and market signals from the Member of Parliament and Committee Chair from Sri Lanka, the Honorable Hector Apuhami. And Sri Lanka also is advancing RE in a demanding environment where energy security, cost stability, and public confidence are all critical. Renewables are seen as part of your country's path to resilience. How's Parliament shaping that trajectory through legislation, oversight, investment frameworks? What's most important as you work to ensure that renewable energy does deliver tangible benefits for both business and citizens?
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Ministers, Honorable Member of Parliament, and ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues. Sri Lanka's renewable energy transition is taking place under significant economic pressure, where energy affordability, supply security, and public trust as important as decarbonization itself. In this context, Parliament has a critical role in ensuring that renewable deployment strengthens economic stability while delivering real benefits to citizens and businesses. First, through legislation, Parliament is shaping a more predictable and investor-friendly framework for renewable energy. We are working to streamline approval process, improve transparency in power procurements, and modernize laws governing electricity generation and grid access. This is essential to reduce project delays, low financing costs, and restore confidence among both domestic and international investors. Clear and stable rules are particularly important for Sri Lanka, as they help protect the consumers from tariff volatility linked to fossil fuel imports. The second one, through oversight, Parliament exercises close security over the energy sector to ensure that renewable expansion supports system reliability and cost stability. This includes oversight of public utilities, power purchase agreements, and long-term generation planning. Parliament committees increasingly focus on whether renewable investments are reducing foreign exchange exports, improving energy security, and lowering long-term costs for households and businesses, not just increasing installed capacity. The third one, through investment and policy frameworks, Parliament supports the mechanism that align renewable energy with economic recovery. This includes encouraging private sector participation, public-private partnerships, and blended finance models that reduce the burden on public finance. Particular attention is given is distributed and rooftop solar, energy storage, and grid upgrades, which directly benefit small businesses, households, and industrial users by improving reliability and reducing electricity costs. Importantly, Parliament also emphasizes social and economic inclusion in this energy transition. Renewable policies are increasingly assessed based on their ability to create local jobs, support regional developments, and protect vulnerable consumers. By linking renewable energy to livelihoods, SME competitiveness, and fiscal stability, we aim to build a durable public confidence in the transition. In summary, Sri Lanka's Parliament is shaping the renewable transition not as a standalone climate agenda, but as a pillar of economic resilience, using legislations to create certainty. Oversight to ensure accountability and investment frameworks to deliver affordable, secure, and inclusive energy for citizens and businesses alike. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for those clear signals of what Sri Lanka is doing. We will now move on to our second round of discussion to focus on inclusive growth and green industrialization. And I'm just going to say we are running significantly behind schedule. So I'm going to shorten all of my questions to lead the way. I would be very grateful if you would also endeavor, dear speakers, to shorten your interventions, meaning if you can get them down to around 2 minutes each, then we will be in better shape. There is a session right after this one in this room. Otherwise, I would be a little bit more lenient, but I'm afraid I will have to be a bit strict about the timekeeping now. So we begin now in this round with the Honorable Moses Otieno Kajwang from Kenya's Parliament. And Kenya is consolidating its position as a renewable energy leader with a number of different initiatives and measures. How do you plan to ensure that these reforms not only accelerate new capacity, but also translate into affordability, job creation, and tangible benefits for Kenyan citizens? You have the floor.
Thank you very much. As a background to the question, last November, Kenya lifted a moratorium that had been placed on new renewable energy projects. And this moratorium had been imposed about 4 years ago. This moratorium had the effect of slowing down investments in independent power generation, and this led to risks of load shedding because demand outstripped supply. And Kenya was forced to import electricity from neighboring countries, accounting to 10% of total supply, and were importing from Uganda, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. The reasons for the moratorium included opaque contracts in the past, high tariffs negotiated on take-or-pay principle, currency risks, and procurement irregularities. It was widely believed that the high cost of electricity in Kenya relative to neighboring countries, and in Kenya it averages $0.24 per kilowatt hour, Uganda 0.17, Ethiopia 0.05, that this high cost was attributable to existing power purchase agreements, and therefore the industry required recalibration. Parliament lifted the memorandum, but with conditions, and some of the conditions included ensuring parliamentary oversight on tariffs as part of statutory instruments, and Parliament caps the cost at 0.07 versus $0.34 per kilowatt hours that was prevailing with existing thermal IPPs. Parliament also demanded full disclosure of beneficial owners. And more importantly, Parliament introduced an auction procurement system to ensure transparency. Some of these proposals might be difficult to implement immediately, but those of us in Parliament know that parliamentary resolutions usually require 60 days for accounting officers to respond on whether they can be implemented or not. The key message is that Kenya is now open for business, and IPPs are welcome, and PPAs have now been reintroduced. And this Kenyan example demonstrates that the role of members of parliament is not just by standards, but we have a role in ensuring energy policy, energy security, and consistency in that space. So I just want to encourage other members of parliament to look at the Kenyan example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We go now to the Honorable Sisifo Sandile Shabalala, who is Eswatini's Member of Parliament. And Eswatini aims to reduce electricity imports from around 80 to 20% by scaling up renewable energy. What role is Parliament playing also to support local participation in power generation?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. What I can say, because of time, is that Eswatini is reducing the heavy reliance of imported electricity through a multi-proprietary strategy focus. We are accelerating domestic and renewable energy generation, primarily from the solar and the hydro and the biomass sources, and implementing energy efficiency to make sure that the nation has an ambition targets to reduce import dependency from 80% to 20% by 2025. As the other question, maybe if I can just catch up, the role of the parliament towards playing a crucial oversight. As we are legislators, the Certain Energy Regulator Authority, which is ISERA, it's briefly a lawmaker on the country's progress and future plans. The parliament is supporting that ISERA with vital establishing of policies and a regulatory framework, such as the National Grid Code and the IPP policy, that are necessary to attract private investment and facilitate the transition to a more self-sufficient and sustainable energy future. I thank you.
Thank you very much. We go to Ethiopia now, and Honorable Dr. Ibrahim Berta Anessei is a Member of Parliament of Ethiopia. Ethiopia has long experience with clean power. What are you doing to turn this into a driver of industrial development and employment, whether it's through manufacturing opportunities, local value chains, skills development, or links to national industrial strategy?
Thank you very much, the moderator. As you said, Ethiopia has huge potential of renewable energy, particularly hydropower. As you hear from the news, recently we have been constructed huge Renaissance dam to produce 5,000 megawatt. Overall, the country have 60 up to 70 megawatt, 70 megawatt thousand of potential energy to produce. Because of this huge energy potential, Ethiopia is become increasing business environment and preferably working environment as well. So Ethiopia government is promoting renewable energy, particularly a kind of incentive have been undertaken, incentive on importing of electric car by reducing tax and banning of fossil fuel energy. So these are some of the activity undertaken to promote renewable energy. As well, government is trying to integrate renewable energy into national economic and industrial development to promote green economy. As much as possible, our economy should be used renewable types of energy by reducing dependent on fossil fuel. So the government is undertaking massive reform on finance, economic, social, investment sector, including energy. So to achieve this reform, we have national strategic documents and programs. Number one is homegrown economic reform, and the second one is 10 years development plan to aspire middle income country in 2030, and also climate resilient green economy by reducing emission. And also we have national sustainable energy development focusing on clean, equitable, and affordable clean energy. To achieve all this reform, PPP, public-private partnership, is very critical because it promotes innovation, entrepreneurship, private investment, and technology development. So strategical shiftings by importing foreign products, by local manufacturing through public-private partnership is one of the agendas that promoted by our government. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We go now to the Member of Parliament from Ghana, the Honorable Frank Ano Dompré. And as we heard earlier in our first round of discussion, Ghana's renewable expansion is supported by net metering, rural electrification, both of them clearly aiming to deliver inclusive growth. Tell us a little bit more about Parliament's role in shaping a transition that protects vulnerable consumers, that unlocks jobs and new opportunities also for businesses and communities.
Thank you very much. Let me start on existing protocols and start off by commending Arena, your outfit. I think that you have set out clear, deliberate involvement of the people's representative, which goes beyond executive to executive diplomacy, and I commend you highly for it. Again, I also think that as parliamentarians, proceeding forward, what we should be doing is an inclusiveness of the narrative of bread and butter issues, because of our sustenance and also because of the exclusion rates, the way we come to Parliament and we are voted out, we should be able to link up any discussions on renewable with bread and butter because we are voted into office. Lastly, a region such as the UAE, which is noted for huge deposits of hydrocarbons, to show this interest and deliberate and dedicated interest in the usage and the facilitation of the argument on renewable is commendable. Well, back to the question of Ghana, I think we have set out, my earlier colleague who spoke, the Member of Parliament, the Deputy Minister of Western South Housing, set out what we are doing, the fundamentals in terms of the change and amendment of existing laws. For instance, we had the Bui Power Authority law, and because of the needs of renewable, we had to bring in the inclusion of renewable energy, and therefore we set out to amend that existing law. Beyond that, Previous government, my government and the MPP government, set out with the electronic vehicle policy as a means of facilitating the development of the usage of renewable. The succeeding government has also set out to continue that, and I think that that is a matter that we have to look at. For inclusion of the private sector and also for involvement of our people and folks from the countryside, we may have to learn from Kenya. Kenya has set out with a deliberate attempt of inclusion of private sector. For instance, doing away of import tariffs, and now all the measures that have been put in place to involve the private sector. That is what Ghana would have to look at. The government's final decision is to ensure that they set out a very good example. The executive have promised that a seat of government will adopt renewable energy. That is a good example that we think that the executive must set out, so that private sector will be encouraged enough to continue on that score. Concluding, I think that the global south and the global north will have to exchange, because now literature has it that Africa has close to about 60% of rare minerals, which is forming about 60% of the composition of renewable component, like i.e. solar panels and all that. Now, the global north do have the knowledge, and so there should be a cross-fertilization of exchange of knowledge, where we in the global south, not necessarily Africa, that has these composite of renewables, deposit of minerals, i.e. bauxite, cobalt, and coal, can exchange effectively, so that ultimately it becomes a win-win for the globe. And I think if we focus on this, we can deliberately have effects on the people on the ground. I thank you.
Thank you very much also for the emphasis on cooperation between Global North and Global South. We go now to Guinea and the Honorable Fanta Contier, who is Member of Parliament and Chair of the Mines and Minerals Committee and a member of the Energy Committee. And I'd like to ask what concrete actions Guinea is taking or could take to strengthen skills development and to expand women's participation across the renewable energy and mining supply chains. And are you speaking French or English? Français, hein? Français, oui. Okay. C'est alors la même chose. Sorry, it's the same procedure then. We will hear this intervention in French. We will circulate a translation, and I'll see if I can provide a bit of one spontaneously at the end. Vous avez la parole. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la modératrice. Merci beaucoup également pour cette opportunité. Je voudrais tout d'abord rappeler que la République de Guinée dispose d'un potentiel exceptionnel en ressources naturelles et énergétiques. Notre mix énergétique est aujourd'hui dominé à environ 75% par l'hydroélectricité, 25% par le thermique et moins d'1% par le solaire. Cette configuration permet déjà de réduire notre dépendance aux combustibles fossiles, même si en zone rurale, la dépendance au bois énergie demeure encore un défi majeur pour notre pays, car les populations n'ont pas souvent accès à l'électricité. Il faut néanmoins reconnaître qu'il y a une volonté politique au niveau des autorités. La Guinée est pleinement engagée dans une transition énergétique fondée sur les énergies renouvelables, une transition inclusive, créatrice d'emplois et porteuse de prospérité partagée. Toutefois, cette ambition ne saurait se concrétiser sans un investissement massif dans les compétences nationales, ni sans une participation accrue des femmes et des jeunes. Aujourd'hui, plusieurs réformes et initiatives structurantes sont en cours. Il s'agit notamment du renforcement de la formation technique et professionnelle à travers la création et la modernisation de centres de formation et des écoles d'excellence dédiés aux métiers de l'énergie et de l'électricité. Les programmes de formation privilégient désormais une approche plus pratique, intégrant des modules relatifs aux énergies, à l'efficacité énergétique et à l'exploitation minière. Parallèlement, des dispositifs de certification professionnelle sont mis en place afin de garantir la qualité des compétences et de faciliter l'employabilité locale. Une attention particulière est accordée aux femmes et aux jeunes, véritables leviers de la transformation économique et sociale de notre pays. Des bourses d'études et des quotas de formation sont accordés pour encourager l'accès des filles et des femmes aux filières scientifiques, techniques et industrielles. À travers notre programme de développement Simandou 2040, il y a un volet qui est accordé à l'éducation, c'est Simandou Academy. Des bourses d'excellence sont également octroyées à l'international dans les filières techniques aux meilleurs étudiants et élèves et des initiatives pour soutenir également l'entrepreneuriat féminin sont également en cours et l'émergence des PME dirigées par des femmes. Je vous remercie.
Je vous remercie. And very brief summary, if I may, that Guinea is in fact emphasizing renewables and hydro, not least in order to ensure broader access for a population that is very much demanding it. All of this with the aim of shared prosperity, and that there's a special emphasis on participation of women and the young, both through training, on-the-job training, also in professional contexts in the power sector as well as in the mining sector, and also very much an emphasis to try to get girls into scientific and technical academic areas early on in order to ensure greater participation for them in economic development and growth, and all of that aiming as well to increase local value added in Guinean communities. So many thanks for that, and you will get a proper summary later on from the IRENA Secretariat. I go now to Pakistan and to the Member of Parliament, Honorable Zeb Jafar. And for years, Pakistan has struggled with chronic power shortages and soaring costs. So tell us a little bit about how renewables can help Pakistan to address both cost issues, resilience, and inclusion. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. For Pakistan, the energy transition is not about emission, but also about resilience. Repeated climate shocks, which occur every odd year in Pakistan, and in 2022 and 23, energy crisis exposed the risk of heavy resilience and imported coal and gas, which left household and industry and public finances vulnerable to global price shocks. In response, residents and commercials and industrial consumers have increased turned to decentralized and secure energy solutions. Most notable, rooftop solar, often combined with battery storage. Now let me bring your attention to Climate Prosperity Plan and how renewables is a key area to improve competitiveness and prosperity. Pakistan Climate Prosperity Plan, which has led by the Finance Ministry in partnership with V20, has helped frame this shift as a competitive economic development. It's positioned renewable energy as a driving of growth, reducing the economic cost of climate impact through resilience. In Pakistan, this includes aligning renewable with green economic zones. And case in point, prevention initiatives such as CM Punjab e-bike scheme provides 19,000 subsidized electric bikes to students, and electric car initiatives are reducing transport costs, lowering emission, and expanding access to mobility. At the same time, another initiative I would like to highlight is Sutra Punjab, demanding how clean energy, environmental services, and job creation can reinforce one another. By improving waste management, sanitation, and urban cleanliness while creating local employment, Sutra Punjab complements the energy transition by improving public health outcome and reducing environmental stress. I would like to give 3 recommendations. Enabling demand-led transitions, link renewables to productivity and services, and institutionalized delivery. Climate Prosperity Plan needs dedicated delivery mechanism, legislative backing, and coordination to move forward from ambition to outcomes. Solving renewable energy policies in a more inclusive, holistic fashion can bear the fruit for generations to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. very much. Moving from emissions to outcome is a very good phrase that we can all take with us, I think. Let me now go to Romania and to the Member of Parliament, Honorable Sandor Bende. And Romania has recently, like so many other speakers here, introduced reforms to accelerate renewable deployment. Tell us a little bit about what Parliament can do to foster implementation on the ground so that truly community energy models do advance your transition goals.
No, speak, no.
Not speaking?
No,
okay,
no.
You just saved us a bit of time, but we regret not hearing from you. Thank you very much. I will go now to Senegal's parliament and the Honorable Oumar Sy. Senegal is expanding renewables while pursuing universal electricity access and major rural electrification efforts. Tell us about how that is translating into concrete social and economic inclusion for communities, especially in remote areas.
Thank you very much. Excuse my poor English, but let me try. In Senegal, Parliament considers the energy transition not only as a technical transformation, but as an instrument of social justice and territorial cohesion supported by a legal and regulatory framework. In recent years, the National Assembly has adopted major legislation to ensure transparency, fairness, and the inclusiveness in the sector. Among these reforms are the Electricity Code, the creation of the Energy Sector Regulatory Commission, the Senegalese Rural Electrification Agency, and the Planning and Orientation Law. Together, they enable an orientation law, the integration of independent power producers, and the deployment of renewable energy at the competitive price, particularly in rural areas. These reforms are delivering concrete outcomes through the Azer Arena partnership launching in 2025. 172 villages are being electrified, reach 30,000 people across several regions. With the support of the World Bank, 4,000 kilometers of power line are being built or rehabilitated, provide electricity to 200,000 households, 600 health centers, and 200 schools. Clean energy is therefore directly contributed to provide healthcare, education, and local economic opportunity with reading territorial inequality. Today, approximately 200% of Senegal's energy mix comes from renewable, solar, hydraulic, and winds, and we aim to reach 40% by 2030. This trajectory is supported by 40% training programs, and the public-private partnership has built national expertise and foster agreed to job creation. In summary, thanks this of legal framework and parliamentary leadership, every kilowatt of renewable energy deployed contribute to social cohesion, share prosperity, and a just transition for all communities in Senegal. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you. We now move on to the Honorable Sal Lamina, who is Member of Parliament in Sierra Leone and also serves on the Executive Committee of the Parliament as Parliamentary Secretary. What energy policy reforms would you say are most critical for ensuring that clean energy as developed in Sierra Leone is working to deliver broad societal benefits, whether it's in the healthcare area, education, food security, or for small business?
Yeah, thank you very much. I should thank Arena for the privilege of speaking on a forum like this, a forum for both legislators and regulators. It is important for us to know from the outset that we the legislators, we play oversight over the regulators, and there have been many, many policies. In short, I will tell you about the P policy of prioritizing, P policy of promoting, H policy of highlighting, and also I policy of integrating. All of this work in a sense. From the outset, I should tell you 5 years ago, the government of Sierra Leone inherited 18% of people just accessing energy. As it turns out, it was converted to 36%. By 2030, we are targeting 80% of accessibility through the help of renewable energy. This is important. Sierra Leone government operates a free quality education, and if that is to hold water, then there has to be energy. Before this time, our PPOs have been performing very poorly, but with the intervention of renewable energy, which gives now schools free internet facility, results have improved. And it's also surprised that PHU, I'm talking of peripheral health units, today now access energy free. This has drastically reduced maternal mortality as compared to days gone by. In summary, I should tell you that schools are benefiting from internet facility, hospitals, and also it has improved smallholder commercialization. Energy has improved. Renewable energy has improved their lives very drastically. Policy makers may make the policy, but it ends between the lawmakers. Our constitution is very strong on that. 93, 3, and 6, we play oversight over the regulators, as it also turns out. Section 105 of Sierra Leone Constitution makes it very clear that we are the supreme legislative authority. And with all the policies, they may exist. But until we, the legislators, make the law, then it will now strengthen collaboration between legislatures and we, regulators and we, the legislatures. I thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you very much for reminding us of that crucial link between legislators and regulators for delivering the societal benefits that we're talking about. Finally, last intervention in this second round of discussion comes from the Member of Parliament from Zimbabwe, Honorable Gift Mambi-Piri. And Zimbabwe's Vision 2030 and its just transition away from fossil fuels do link clean energy with poverty reduction goals. So from a parliamentary perspective, how do you build on that with governance frameworks that contribute both to economic renewal and fiscal stability on the one hand and decent work on the other, given the fact that you are, of course, losing jobs in that fossil fuel sector?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Let me just write on the existing protocols. Starting this month and running until the end of 2030 in December, Zimbabwe has adopted a national development strategy that has clean energy as its centerpiece. And for Zimbabwe, clean energy is a strategic tool towards macroeconomic stability, decent job creation, industrial resilience, and poverty eradication. And from a parliamentary perspective, renewables are central to how we renew our economy as we transition away from fossil-based power. Our historical interdependence on imported fuels and climate-vulnerable hydropower has exposed our economy to foreign currency pressures, supply disruptions, and external shocks. Our parliament policies have prioritized the rapid expansion of domestic renewables, particularly solar, small hydros, and biomass. We are already witnessing an encouraging growth in independent power producers for electricity generation with improved output than previous years. Our economy has greatly improved, especially since the announcement of regulations that promote independent players in the power generation matrices. We are well aware that, unlike fossil-based systems, renewable energy creates employment across the entire value chain, from manufacturing and installation to operations, maintenance, and innovation. Our country is now pushing large energy-intensive industries, including ferrochrome producers, to invest in captive solar power. The shift is already driving job creation, skills development, and industrial competitiveness, thereby meaningfully absorbing youth and women into productive employment, particularly in rural and peri-urban areas. The Parliament of Zimbabwe has therefore strongly supported increased funding towards rural electrification projects, particularly for solar, mini-grids, grid expansion, and biogas construction. These interventions are unlocking rural productivity, supporting small enterprises, and improving service delivery in health education. From a legislative standpoint, a just transition must be inclusive, affordable, and equitable. As a country, we are heading there. In conclusion, Zimbabwe is endowed with significant renewable energy potential, including solar, wind, small hydro, and geothermal resources. We welcome partnerships, investment, and any support that can help us move towards a green and resilient economy. I thank you.
Thank you very much to Zimbabwe, and thank you to all of our speakers for sharing valuable insights in both rounds of discussions, insights about how you are rethinking governance frameworks to deliver clear market signals that can mobilize resources, both domestic resources and international investment, for the purpose of moving, as Zeb Jaffa said, from decarbonization goals to broader goals that look at outcomes for your societies. And that, of course, was the second area of discussion, how you're rethinking governance framework to deliver shared prosperity across multiple sectors of your societies. We've heard a lot of very, very good information about concrete best practices, about initiatives, about new ways of conceiving linkages between legislators and regulators, but also, of course, between the various sectors of societal benefit that renewables can deliver. Therefore, I'm very glad to say it doesn't fall to me to provide a detailed summary, but we will go to closing words from the Honorable Bärbel Höhn, who is former member of the German Bundestag and also chair of the Global Renewable Congress. And Bärbel, I will remind you that unfortunately we're just about out of time. So a short conclusion would be very welcome. And then we're going to do a family photo. So when she finishes, please don't all jump up. We're going to then get some instructions for the family photo. Bärbel, you have the floor.
Doesn't work. Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you for this debate. And I think we are very successful with renewables, and I can show you the data. For example, Germany is the third biggest economy in the world, behind US and behind China. And in the last year, more than 60% of our electricity we needed was coming from renewables. More than 60%. We need 450 terawatt hours per year. That is so big. And we are an industrial country. So we were talking about industrial countries, we are talking about renewables, and that is the solution. Because renewables are not only the key for combat climate change, they are also the solution for prosperity. Because 800 million people in the world have no access to electricity. And with the sun, with solar, we are able to help them. Because 2/3 of the Sustainable Development Goals we can achieve better with access to electricity. And what we are talking about is, what is the work of parliamentarians? And the parliamentarians, for example, in Germany, started 25 years ago, the revolution in Germany. It was a parliamentarian from Germany who had the idea of make the foundation of ARENA. So that we are sitting here was coming from parliamentarians from Germany. And that is really, I think, the step, because parliamentarians are the bridge between the local level and the national level where you make the legislation and the framework. And on the other side, you see the people on the ground and see what you can do for more prosperity for the people there. And we are more independent if we are using renewables because we need less imports of very expensive fossil fuels. We are more independent when we have more jobs and we have more prosperity when we use renewables. So that means renewables are really the key of prosperity and the solution. But we have a lot of problems we could see. For example, we need storage. We need, for example, a stable grid, because I am living in an industrial country. I was minister there, and I had to guarantee for energy security. For every second, the industry needs electricity. And that means we have to look for solutions, because if we have no wind, if we have no sun, we have a problem, you know? And for example, we are looking for social balance, because more and more people, the on-grid goes off-grid, even in industrial countries, because more and more people are investing in the private solar system. But the poorer ones, they have access to the grid. They have to pay for the cost of the grid. And that is so we have to look for social balance, you know. So we have to look, for example, for sector coupling. How can we bring all together the transport system, the cooling and heating system, and the produce of electricity? That are a lot of big issues, and we are staying here and debating about the solutions. And I think that's what we have to do. That's what it brings us forward, and that's what I say is a very, very many thanks to ARENA that we have the possibility to do it. Go home with a lot of spirit, with a lot of energy, and do a lot of the people there with building up renewables. Thank you.
Thank you, Beryl Hearn, for those resounding remarks. Don't go home yet, because the assembly hasn't even begun, and we have so many great sessions dealing with some of the topics that we have focused on here today. That starts with grids and storage this afternoon at 4:30 p.m. in the room right next door. Tomorrow morning, we will think once again about how we can reimagine policies in order to deliver shared prosperity. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to talk about green industrialization, and on the day thereafter, we talk about that link between renewables and the agri-food sector. So lots of great sessions in store, and then you can take the word home with you after that. Let me thank all of our speakers once again for being here, for sharing your insights, and I want to apologize to all of those who would have liked to make an intervention, but we were not able to take non-pre-registered interventions. I'm sorry for that, but thank you very much for being with us all the same. We do now want to do a family photo for all of the speakers who have addressed us during this session. So if you would kindly assemble here, looking that way, then our camera person can stand essentially over there and get a group photo of all of us. And before I close, I will just say many thanks to our rapporteur for taking notes throughout this session, which will then, of course, be distributed to everyone, and to the entire IRENA team for making this session possible. Let's give them a warm round of applause, please. So with that, I close the session and ask all of the speakers to please join us here for the family photo. Thank you.
We are just about to start the next session, starting at 11:45. So would those that plan to attend the high-level consultation towards the review of SDG7 at the HLPF 2026 start sitting down, while the other guests, if you could kindly leave?
Jonis, pin lockout you pin. Then Umaro, side is Sanuma. Dolly.
Do you have Olado?
We're still working on it. Yes, still working on it.
I saw it.
Pakistan. Oh, is it?
You're